Welcome back. The time is 4 minutes before top of the hour 9, and we're going to be switching gears now to local politics. The government of national unity looks like they're facing a very, very critical moment. This is after Democratic Alliance leader Jordan Hill Lewis requested sweeping changes to the DA's representatives in cabinet, and the most notable one, obviously, being the demotion of former party leader John Steenhuisen from agriculture minister to deputy minister of trade and industry. The proposed changes are now before the president for approval and could become the first major political reshuffle of the GNU. And I think that's the most interesting part, to see how this reshuffle could affect the government of national unity. And this comes amid growing scrutiny of government performance, tensions within the coalition itself, and just general questions around accountability in public office. The DA says the changes are about performance. It also says it's about strengthening its contribution to government, while I think everyone else, especially the critics, see a deeper political calculation at play. And we're going to be, I think, unpacking that very, very important conversation, especially now as South Africa tries to navigate what looks and feels like might be the future reality of South Africa's politics, coalitions for the first time, especially at national level. I think it'll be interesting to see how this reshuffle almost tests, that coalition. And to help us unpack its implications, we're joined by political analyst Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on Salam Media. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure's all ours. And I think we can jump right into it. First and foremost, your reaction to, I think, the biggest headline when it comes to local politics yesterday, the demotion of John Steenhuisen from agriculture minister to deputy minister of trade and industry. What are your thoughts on that? What do you make of it?
So I think what we see is a factional battle within the DA that is having a spillover effect to the executive institution. And it's quite interesting because the DA, for a very long time, has been criticizing the government of the ANC for using the state machinery to dish out favors to henchmen. But in the same way, it does the same thing now. Because what is basically happening is that the newly elected leader of the DA is trying to accommodate his own henchmen within the executive institution, and is doing that by dishing out those favors in exchange for political support, but also is trying to flex his political muscle, in
Mm,
terms of conveying a message that there's a new sheriff in town. But the worst part of it is that this has nothing to do with the national interest. It has to do with him consolidating his own political power.
Very interesting to note. And I think for me, at least, is maybe you can also just expand on this, how significant it is politically, considering that Johnson Hazen is one of the architects, one of the founders of this government of national unity. Do you think it'll have any kind of impact on ANC and DA relations going forward?
The idea of the GNU, in my view, came from the market forces. Remember, the DA, before the elections of 2024, made a very interesting announcement that it was not going to join forces with the ANC. There was this mantra that anything but the ANC. And that's why the precursor to that was the multi-party charter. But that plan did not come to a fruition because the DA failed to garner enough votes. And then the idea of the government of national unity through a power sharing arrangement rose to prominence. So I wouldn't say that he foregrounded the idea of the DA joining forces with the ANC. He might
Mm,
have facilitated that, but I think the idea came from the business community. But anyway, I think what we see now is that his significance as a senior leader of the TA has been weakened, and I think he's being told indirectly that he needs to know his place.
mm, mm, mm. Mm. I think you mentioned something quite interesting in the beginning of this conversation. The fact that this demotion of John Steenhuisen is not by any means, for the country or for the government of national unity. This is a result of factional politics within the Democratic Alliance. This is wording that naturally we wouldn't associate with the DA. Factionalism. They always looked and felt like a party that is very in unison. Why do you think the factionalism is unraveling now, especially realizing that they are part of a government? Is there something to look more into the fact that we're seeing these spats within the Democratic Alliance when they are finally part of a national government?
Yes, of course. I think what it means is that it's one thing to be out of government and criticize the powers that be. It's another thing to be in a government because there are a lot of political dynamics. And sometimes leaders of political parties, they balance their factional interests, by accommodating those who are supporting them to be with them or to basically fight with them when they're having challenges within the party. So the discourse that has been framed by the DA that it subscribes to democratic values of accountability. I think those things now we see that they were just statements that were made in theory but not in practice because to a certain extent, there is a common denominator between the political culture of the DA and the political
Mm.
culture of the ANC, but maybe not on the same scale.
And I think this is very, very unprecedented to have a political party within a government of national unity almost recall one of its deployees. What do you think this will? What kind of message this will send, to the rest of the other parties? That does it set a precedent? Does it tell other GNU parties that they can also reshuffle their own representatives in cabinet if the president approves these changes proposed by Jordan and Lewis?
So I think it must be borne in mind that in as much as the Constitution in Chapter 5, Section 91 gives the president prerogative powers to hire and to fire, but the formulators of the constitution, they never saw it coming that one party dominance at some point will be a thing of the past. So the constitution was written with the mind that there will always be one political party that is in charge, and that's why the constitution makes reference to the president with the assumption that a particular political party would have won the elections. But now you have a government that is constituted as a result of power sharing.
Mm,
And therefore, I don't think that a political party, when it wants to make a request for those of its own to be accommodated, it is out of line or it is undermining the president. I think it's the way things are at the moment. That had it not been for this power sharing, the ANC would not have had its own president as the leader of the executive or government. So what it does, it showcases some of the the political changes that we have seen since the ushering in of this government of national unity.
mm, mm. And that's where I want to have my focus on, because government of national unity or power sharing, as you put it, is very, very unprecedented at a national level for South Africa. We're what, 2-3 years since that has become a reality. From your perspective, how do you think it has fared so far? Could this ultimately be the future of South African politics? Are we bound to have a government of national unity in some shape or form, the true reflection of what South African politics are all about? Or are we still looking at a reality? Maybe if you can look at your crystal ball, where we could have one political party being the major power structure when it comes to South African politics.
No, I think the latter is off the mark. I mean, I don't think that we will ever have one party dominance. I think the hegemony of the ANC has been dealt with a blow in a big way. So what we are going to have from time to time is coalition arrangements all the way, in my view. I don't think that there's a political party that even can replace the ANC by itself. So I think power sharings are going to be arrangements that are going to be at play in the South African body politic.
And your thoughts on a government of national unity? Do you think it has yielded the results that we had hoped for? Is it working, if I can put it that way? Or maybe is it, the puzzles maybe not fitting together, the different political parties that are not making up a perfect whole, so to say?
So there are two observations that I've made. The first one is that on the one hand, in terms of stability, in terms of political stability, I think we do have that. We have that, if we can be honest.
Mm,
We have a functioning executive. There is a coherence, even though from time to time there are contradictory statements amongst the leaders of the GNU. So on the whole, I
mm,
think we have a functioning government, which is a good thing because it conveys a positive message to the business community. But on the other hand, in terms of economic indicators, unemployment, poverty, inequality, we have
mm,
not been doing well on that score. And I think I have mixed feelings about the performance of the GNU. I think, in as much as the institutional factors are important in terms of accountability, the social contract between government and the people, yes, those arrangements are important in a democratic setup. But I think there's more to democracy than that. I think democracy should be measured by the the economic performance of the country, the ability of the country to create jobs, to fight against poverty, and I think the current arrangement is not done well on that score.
Very, very important to note. I want to come to maybe the impact that this might have on the upcoming local government elections in November, because looking at the political parties in the GNU right now, after it was announced that we're going to be having this power sharing structure, it looked like there was now a beauty pageant of some sort, a competition for South African citizens to pick and choose who they're going to be voting for in the next elections, considering how they fared in the government. Because it's not only the ANC now that is in national government, there's different political parties that are in different portfolios. Granted, the ANC still enjoys a lion's share of the most critical ones. But do you think the government of national unity and having all of these political parties, mainly the Democratic Alliance, having their own departments and running them, almost paints a picture for what the electorate could ultimately decide when it comes to local government elections? Did they do enough in the beauty pageant that was national politics and the different portfolios that they were handed?
Okay, so political power, in my view, in post-colonial states comes from two spaces, namely the rural section of the population and the urban centers. And we have
Yeah.
seen in the urban centers covering the period of 2016 until to date that the ANC has had a downward electoral trajectory to the extent that it has been dislodged on a large scale from power in many areas like Nelson Mandela Bay, the city of Johannesburg, Tshwane, eThekwini. So I don't think that the upcoming electoral outcomes will change that picture. I don't think the
Oh.
ANC is going to bounce back. Paradoxically, I think the worst might happen, meaning that the ANC might do worse than what it did in the last local government elections of 2021. In fact, it might even drop from the threshold that it is sitting at, which is 40%. So that will create a scope for a number of coalition arrangements. I think the gap that needs to be bridged is an institutionalization of a conflict management mechanism, because there seems to be a tendency amongst the political elite to rush into forming these coalition arrangements at local government level, in particular, without designing a conflict management mechanism to deal with the internal contradictions. At the national level, I think even at provincial level, there is a platform for political elites to discuss their own contradictions. But at local government level, I'm sure you will agree with me, governments, they've tended to come in and come out of these arrangements without having a permanent stay at the local state.
Very important. I want to wrap it up with just your thoughts on the future of John Steenhuisen within the Democratic Alliance. He's the quote-unquote first casualty of Jordan Hill Lewis. What do you think is left for him within the DA?
I think he's going to jump ship.
Oh.
I think he's going to walk out of that government because he's been humiliated. This is imagine how would you feel if you were in charge at some point, calling the shots, and all of a sudden now you are a deputy minister. I don't think that, in as much as there have been ups and downs in that department in terms of the relationship of the department with the farmers and so on, but I don't think that he has been recalled because of his performance. I think there was a fallout between him and some of the old guards. There is no way Jordan Hill Lewis would have made this bold move without the support of the old guards within the party. So there are people behind closed doors who are very powerful within the team, who are pulling the strings for the party. And I think that is going to force him, because now he might not have enough sympathizers to protect him. And because of that lack of political protection, he might want to jump ship, in my view.
Sure. Very, very, I think, bold assumption there. I think we'll all wait and see, but we're going to leave it there for now. Ntsikelelo, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on Salam Media. There we go. And with that, we've come to the end of that conversation. Hey, what are your thoughts? Do you think John Steenhuisen might jump ship? He's been very, very cozy with ANC officials since the Democratic Alliance, made its way to national government. Do you think that's a reality that we could potentially see? A John Steenhuisen donning the green, black, and yellow of the African National Congress? Or do you think he might join one of the other minority parties? Give us a call, 011-680-0355, or you can send us a WhatsApp message, a voice note on 061-766-0355. John Steenhuisen's future hanging in the balance within the Democratic Alliance, becoming the first victim of Jordan Hill Lewis, him saying there's a new sheriff in town, a new broom sweeping clean, and the first assignment being the demotion of John Steenhuisen, once leader of the Democratic Alliance. Interesting times ahead. Going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you after this.
Soweto, it's time to stand together for justice, peace, and solidarity. Join us for the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, taking place on Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 a.m. The walk will begin at the historic Regina Mundi Church and proceed to the monumentous Dlamini Mosque, bringing together people of all faiths, backgrounds, and communities in a powerful show of unity and support. Bring your family, friends, and fellow residents as we walk together for a common cause. Let your voice be heard and your presence counted. That's the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 in the morning, starting at Regina Mundi Church and ending at Dlamini Mosque. Together we walk, together we stand, together we show solidarity.